Well, good afternoon, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeannie Borum. I'm part of the Signworld team here at the corporate office and excited to be your facilitator for our session today. For those who have not attended one of these in the past, I'll just quickly give you an overview of what to expect over this next hour. So first, we're going to have each of our owners give an introduction of themselves, a little bit about their business and where they're located, and some key details. And then we're going to turn the floor over to our participants who have joined us as guests for today. And each of you will be given the opportunity to ask at least one single question where each of the owners will give their own individual perspective. So you'll get multiple answers to your question. And if there's time permitting, we'll be able to go around and ask second questions if able. So that's our format for today's session. And with that said, I'm going to go ahead and kick it over to our owners to give their introductions to get us started. Mr. Conklin, can I start with you, please?
Sure. My name is Don Conklin. I own Pinnacle Custom Signs. We're in Beaufort, Georgia, which is outside of Atlanta, Georgia. We are at 23 employees, I think, 22, 23 employees. We're in 12,500 square feet. We do business all over the country, and we're probably going to wind up at $5.2 million in sales this year.
Very good. And what were you doing before your life at Signworld?
I was still married to Teresa. No, I'm only kidding. I was in telecom. I worked for the phone company for 30 years. So.
Very good. And what's your biggest customer or recent project you've done?
I've done a rebranding of a storage company in the Southeast. That was about a 1.2 million. And then I've done the vehicles for Vroom, the competitor to Carvana, as far as the car delivery business is concerned.
Very good.
How big was that project? How big was that project?
It wound up being about close to 400,000.
Very good. Thank you for sharing, Don. Matt, can you go ahead and give an introduction for yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Matt Stein. I am the owner of Signscapes. We're located in Southfield, Michigan, which is just outside of Detroit. We've been in business just over 2.5 years. I'm in a 3,000 square foot facility. This year, we're on track to do about 550,000 in sales. I have myself and 2 full-time employees. My largest customer to date has actually been a parking garage in Detroit, the old Joe Louis Arena garage. We've done all the signs for them, probably build about 150,000 so far, and still have about 3 more floors to finish. So they've been a very good customer of ours. Prior to the sign business, I was in sales and account management, business development in the wireless industry, working with mobile apps.
Got 2 telecom guys on the call today. All right, very good. Thank you, Matt. David, let's move to you. Can please go ahead with your introduction.
Hello, everyone. My name is David Gonzalez. The name of my company is Signworld Signs. We are located in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I have been in the business for 5 years. Our facility is 1,300 square feet. I have, at this point in time, 3 employees, went down from 7 last year. And our sales projection for 2022 is $600,000, down from about $860,000 last year. The biggest project we have completed is we are doing some self-storage facilities for SmartStop. We're doing the vinyl work. We just invoiced them for $70,000 for the latest one. And my career background is I used to be in finance. I used to be a corporate banker.
Very good. Thank you. Jack.
Morning, everybody. I'm Jack Werner. I joined Signworld as a Signworld operation in 1995. 1,100 square feet. We were then more of a retail banner shop using yellow pages. Didn't even have digital print at that time. We barely had hard drives in the computers. I started 1 employee, ended up in this 5,000 square feet 10 years later with staff of 11 doing 1.3. Then sold my operation, joined Ken at our corporate office as kind of a partnership arrangement. Finished buying him out in 2014. I'm the president of Signworld. As I answer questions today, if it goes more to my experience running an operation, I'll speak from that perspective. If it goes more towards training and policy, I'll speak from that perspective.
Very good. Thank you, Jack. And none of us would be here today without Ken. Ken, please give your introduction.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ken Kent. I'm the founder of Signworld 35 years ago. in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm still here. My largest customer was Bank of Hawaii. They found me. I was actually in the bank talking to the home mortgage people, and the commercial banker needed a sign, and that's how it all started. The beauty of the business at the time for me, and still today, is that it requires very few employees for the amount of money that you can make as the owner. To make your old corporate income of $200,000 a year, the benchmark is you only need 4 employees to do that. That's the beauty of the business, especially these days where employees are hard to find. Thank you, Jeannie.
Very good. Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to the fun part. Now it's time for our guests to ask their individual questions. So I'll be going around based on when you logged in. So I had Frank logged in first. I'll ask you to please go off of mute, Frank, and go ahead with your first question for the group today.
Okay, I had to get off of mute. Good morning, everybody. So, yeah, I've been trying to figure and see if this is a business for me. So, I guess my question for me is, and I like what Ken said about, having small amount of employees. Can you hear me?
We can, Frank. Go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, so having a small amount of employees, I concur with him saying that today it's hard to find employees and so on. So that's really good news. I mean, as an owner, you're always thinking about how long do I have to sustain being in the red before I can start seeing capital come in or revenue coming in, so I can be self-sufficient. And I know that it's different for everybody, but is there an average that perhaps the owners can give me when they first started, how long did it take for them to start seeing positive?
Yep, absolutely, Frank. And we'll get to the average in a moment with Jack when he gets to his turn. But so owners, when did you become cash positive in your business? When did you start taking a paycheck, etc.? Let's start with you, David.
Yeah, I actually started taking a paycheck just very, very recently. The reason is because I have tried to fast track the growth of my business. So pretty much I have tried to bootstrap equipment acquisition. We started with a very basic equipment that you probably know what it is. And right now we have, a lot of other things. So that has come at a cost. And the cost in this case is not taking a salary for a number of years.
So David, when was the business cash positive though? When you could have taken money out if you wanted to? Yeah,
that didn't take too long. I would say between month 6 and 1 year. I mean, however, there's good months and bad months, to be honest. But yeah, I haven't really put in any cash in the business since the initial setup. Very good. Thank you, David. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, very similar to David. It took us about 6 months until we were at a cash break even and cash flowing, but it did fluctuate a little bit. I didn't start taking a salary until about month 9 for much of the same reasons, just eliminate debt and try to build up capital reserves.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. Don?
Cash flow positive in our 2nd month and taking a salary about 6 months.
Very good. Thank you, Don. Jack?
It was 1st month and 6th month. The average is about 6 months. Modest income year 1, better year 2. It's not a get rich quick scheme. It's building both income and building equity resale value as well.
Absolutely. Ken, any thoughts from you?
Nothing to add. Nothing to add.
All right, very good. Frank, where are you from before we go on to our next guest? I forgot to ask you where you're located.
Yeah, I'm in Long Beach, California.
Okay.
Yeah, I also came from the telecommunication world.
Oh, very good. Very good. Well, delightful to have you here today. Okay, let's go to our next guest. Grant, I'm gonna ask you to go off of mute and share where you're from and go ahead with your first question, please.
Yeah, I'm Grant Harlow in Horn Lake, Mississippi, basically just a south suburb of Memphis, Tennessee. And I too had questions about the return on investment of when you would be cash flow positive. I guess then the next thing that would kind of pique my interest there is how successful are you building and finding those customers? Kind of how do you do that? Because that's going to be the key to getting your revenue up where you can pay your expenses and be positive.
Absolutely, Grant. Definitely can't do that without customers. So Matt, when you first started the business, how did you find customers when you first started, and how do you find your new leads today?
Yeah, they're very similar answers. I kind of had three buckets. One was my own personal, network of friends and family who could use a sign company. We spend about $1,400 a month on the website and having a strong online presence. And then I joined a networking group locally who's also contributed to leads. And, it is really just about being responsive, following through on what you're going to do, providing good service. And we've been able to secure some nice long-term repeat customers just by the basics of business.
So your new leads that are coming in today, Matt, would you say what % is repeat business? What % is referred from current customers, and what is new? And how are you getting those new ones? Is it still mostly your internet?
The website still generates the majority of our new clients. About 60% new business comes off the web. Referrals and repeat business right now for us is about half, actually a little more than half, also about 60% of our overall business, and continuing to grow. I've managed to get in good with some manufactured home communities, and we do work all across the country now for what started as one group who is a friend of my dad's, and they referred me to two other investors that are investing in these properties, and we've just been able to kind of grow organically through those relationships.
A friend who knows a friend who knows a friend. Very good. All right. Thank you, Matt. How about you, Don?
All right, 70% of our revenue is existing customers, repeat customers. Of the other 30%, half of that is referrals from those existing customers, and the other half is off the internet. Basically, it's serving the customers, providing excellent customer service, and not letting them look somewhere else. We are not the lowest price person in the market, but we provide excellent customer service, and we do it fairly quickly. So we can turn things fairly quickly as well. So I would tell you that initially it was networking and the internet and stuff like that. Now it's just harvesting those existing customers, getting referrals from them, and still working the web leads that we get.
Very good. Thank you. David?
Since day one, we have been working with a leads provider over the internet, which is bad and good. The good is that we give them money, the phone rings. The bad is that you have really no say whatsoever on what they send. So we are trying to break that dependency, and that's going to help us be a bit more focused. So yeah, that's our experience.
Very good. Thank you, David. Jack?
There's a lot of new owner training, and then there's a 2-year sales and marketing coaching program. Realize that while you have to get customers, we're really looking for your operational skill set to manage the projects, and we are the sales skill set. It's not a hard sell, it's a consultative sale. The customer you're looking for already has a need. We're trying to offer our ability to service the project. It's going to take networking, reaching out to contacts to begin with, but by the end of the first year, most of your new leads are going to come from your website. Over time, as you heard from others, more and more of the business is repeat customers. More and more of it has come from referral. So over time, the business does become more self-generating. This is not a knock on doors, have to go find the next customer every day for the rest of your life.
Very good. Ken, any thoughts from you?
Question, Don Conklin, please tell us again, what % of your gross sales comes from repeat customers?
70%, Ken.
Okay. Think about that, folks. Think about that. He doesn't have to go chasing customers. They're chasing him now. 70% of this business, they're chasing him, saying it's time to order again, Don. That's all.
Yeah, Matt, in just a few years is at 60% already. So absolutely.
Right.
Key point. All right, let's go to our next participant. Dermot, I hope I said that correctly. Please confirm and share where you're from and go ahead with your question today.
Yes, you said it perfectly. Dermot McClear, Springfield, New Jersey. My question is how you guys funded the startup costs to your business.
All right. So going back to when you first funded the business, 401k, an SBA, personal loans, how did you fund your business? Matt, let's start with you.
Sure. My funding was a combination of a 401k, Rob's rollover, in addition to I got a loan from my grandmother.
Good old grandma. Very good.
Did you pay her back?
Of course.
Okay.
Before the bank and or after?
What's that? Oh, no. Well, no, grandma came first.
First. All right. Very good. Good answer. All right, David, how about you?
Half savings and half government loan, small business loan.
Don, going back 10 years, how'd you fund it when you started?
11. Don't give me credit for all 11, okay?
All 11. All right.
401k rollover.
Okay. Very good. Jack?
I was fortunate that I had done a temporary fad business that generated some revenues that I was able to fund from the proceeds of that previous business.
So cash for you. Okay. Ken, any comments from you?
401k rollover.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. All right, let's go. Sorry, Jack, did you have something to add?
You know, I'd probably say of all people funding a Signworld operation, probably 90% of those that have a 401k are doing a 401 rollover. There's no tax penalties, no early tax withdrawal implications. Those that don't want to do that or don't have that 401 ability are either doing an SBA loan, doing a HELOC, refinance of the house, or selling other stocks or properties they might have. Nobody's sitting with the amount of money sitting in the bank, so it's funding it from the source.
Right. Very good. Thank you. Marianne, if you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group today.
Hi, Marianne Starr. I'm currently from San Francisco. I guess my question would be about, it's not really a question, but if you could, I'd like to hear from the different owners about the different types of signage packages they offer and some of the challenges and advantages of the types of signage production. You know, like what are money makers and what do you go after for more consistently? What are some of the challenges in terms of maybe high intensity, you know, more difficult to produce, that type of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Don, let's start with you. What kind of projects do you traditionally try to pursue and which ones seem to generate the most revenue for you?
Well, I will tell you that we're across the broad spectrum. We do anything from electrical signs all the way through car wraps to regular printed materials. And I wouldn't say I'm focused on a specific product. I would say I'm focused more on specific customers, and the customers who have multiple locations are franchisees or franchisors, have locations across the country, and like property management and real estate companies in the metro Atlanta area that manage multiple buildings and have tenants moving in and out all the time. So that's what we focus on. So it could be anything from change a suite sign in a building, a 40-story building, to get me a large sign to put on the top of a 40-story building saying the marquee customer in the building. So it really is a wide gamut. As far as what's more difficult, it just depends, right? Depends on the jurisdiction. I would tell you though that anything that does not need a sign permit typically goes a lot faster, so you can print it and install it and stuff like that. We do a lot of permitting, but that takes a little bit longer because you're at the mercy of the jurisdiction. We're trying to get a sign permitted in downtown Los Angeles right now, not working really well. I don't think Los Angeles people are still working, quite frankly, but we're still working on that. So. Very
good. And from a profitability perspective, Don, what types of projects tend to be the most profitable?
Probably graphics, not vehicle wraps, but more graphics like window graphics, wall graphics, floor graphics, just spot graphics on things. Those are the things that, because we're producing them all in house. Well, of course, now that we're producing electrical signs, those are making profits for us too. But I would tell you that the print material is probably about 85% margin for us.
Very good. Thank you, Don. David, how about you?
I would say the most profitable jobs are the ones where you don't make mistakes. I think that's the biggest challenge, especially going in, is just really self-inflicted damage. I do agree with Don, of course, in terms of picking the client more than picking the type of product. We do try to work with some property managers. Margins aren't huge, but they give you work pretty much every week, same as facility managers. And then we make our own channel letters, so we have satisfactory margins with those.
Okay, very good. Thank you, David. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, sort of a similar approach. I think it's the customer type is more important to us really than the sign type. The most profitable projects for us are much like David and Don said, stuff that we can print and install in-house. We're making 80-85% margin on stuff that rolls off the printer that we can also handle. I don't have the correct licenses yet, being a relatively new business here in Michigan, to install electrical or build electrical signs. So while those are higher value orders for us, the margins are a little bit lower, depending on the client, could be as low as 30%, typically somewhere between 40 and 50%. And they come with more potential pitfalls. There's a lot more involved in doing outdoor electrical monument signs and channel letter signs for us anyway, being relatively new than interior lobby signs, ADA signs, window graphics, wall graphics are all mostly pitfall free. But we do get a pretty good mix of all those. And again, we focus more on the type of customer that we know can bring us the repeat business, even if it's a smaller order to start, perhaps even at a lower margin, just to gain the customer, gain some trust, start building a relationship. We've been very successful at turning those into higher margin, very profitable customers, after a very short period of time.
So Matt, give us an example. What was one of the smallest orders you took that's turned into a big customer or a good customer?
I started working with a local franchise around here. They're opening up a ton of restaurants. They do smoothies, and they have a sister company that sells buffalo wings. And they contacted us at first just for some temporary construction graphics on a new building that was going up. Probably maybe $1,000 order, something relatively small at not a great margin. I don't remember, frankly, exactly what it was. And now we're doing 2 stores here locally, one in Ohio. We're handling all their interior and exterior graphics. We've turned that one small little opportunity and actually took the business from a sign company just down the road and turned it into $60,000 or $75,000 worth of work.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you, Matt. Jack?
Well, I failed to mention before my largest customer. My largest customer started with the hours decal for one location, telling the hours they were open. $40 sign turned into a $250,000 per year customer, repeatable. 200 Subway locations that were constantly rechanging their logos. So it starts with small stuff, goes bigger. Signs are either 2-dimensional, where they're printed and mounted, and that comes from the original equipment that we provide as part of the investment. And then 3-dimensional signs that are more fabricated. Having the equipment to do all of that would be a much bigger investment, a much steeper learning curve, needing larger space. We have a roster of manufacturers that'll fabricate those things for you from the beginning. And then over time, you might bring in some of those resources, as Don and David have done, to make more of that in-house. What becomes most profitable is depending on you. And that's why we recommend you start off a little bit more general in what you take on, and then determine which customers, which projects fit you best. Which, if you have staff that's very good on vehicle reps, you might focus here. If you're not good on vehicle reps, you might avoid it. So start off a little bit general and let the niche come to you over a year or two. That way you're more happy and more successful.
Thank you, Jack. Ken, any thoughts from you?
I ditto what Matt Stein said. It's not the type of sign that's most profitable versus others. It's the type of customer. It's that customer that you have that strong personal relationship with, and they never question your top dollar prices, and they love your service. That's where you make the most money.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. All right, let's go to our next participant. If Mike, I believe it's Mike Resman, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, confirm that that is your last name, and go ahead with your question for us.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay? I can't see who's on. Am I the right mic?
You are the right mic.
All right. A lot of times there's more than one mic in a conference call, but anyway, I'm currently in Cincinnati on my way to the greater Tampa area in Florida. So for this opportunity, looking at the Tampa market. And my question, I guess, is kind of twofold. I'd like to know what the current franchisee feel is going to be their steady state revenue, kind of once they reach maturity. What do they anticipate that to be? Maybe they're already there or still on the way. And when they reach that steady state, what do they think their net income or earnings is going to be as a percentage of the sales?
All right. So 11 years in business, Don. Are you at a steady state or are you still wanting to grow?
That's a trick question. I think steady state's between 4 and 5 million for us. You know, we had a really good year this year, so 4 to 5 million is a steady state for us, and we will either bring home in salary or have net income probably of 7 figures, at least 7 figures, a little bit over 7 figures will be our net number. That would include our salaries and whatever profitability the company has. So
greater than 20% from a percent perspective.
It's greater than 20%. I overpay some of my employees, so that's.
I'm sure you overpay Teresa, right? I mean, she gets the biggest paycheck.
She does, as a matter of fact.
All right, very good. Matt, newer to the business, what are your goals and what do you think will become a steady state, and what are your percentages, if you're willing to share?
Yeah, sure. You know, so the goal for me is to get this thing up to around $1.5 million per year. So we're roughly about a third of the way there, 2.5 years in. And yeah, we're targeting, you know, 20 to 25% margin. So on $1.5 million in revenue, I'd be looking to bring home about 300,000 in salary. Very
good. Thank you, Matt. David, how about you? Are you at a steady state, looking to still grow? What are your targets?
No, we're not. We're trying to grow up. Actually, when we grow up, we want to be like Don Conklin. So that's our steady state goal.
We all want to grow up and be like Don Conklin.
That's right.
So what are your goals?
No, exactly. I mean, basically, like, honestly, like that's a role model. Is having a company like Don's.
Jack, how about you? What were your goals when you ran your business?
You know, my goal was to get to about a 250 net income, and that goes back 25 years ago. So I think the goal now would be a bigger number than that. You know, it's really an interesting question when you talk to Signworld owners. There are many that are happy with 100 net income because it's more than they made in previous life. There's some that are not happy at 200 and they need 300 in net income. It's not so much the sales goal as it is what can I make for the net income. If you think about it, there's a lot of businesses out there that work on much smaller margins, and you got to have a lot greater revenue. As Ken mentioned earlier, a much larger staff to do it. So this is working with a small staff of career employees that you can build a relationship with and have some reliability. I think how big it grows, a lot depends on not only what did they make in corporate life before, how big is their vision, but also the age. A lot of those that are joining at an older age are more of just about replacing where they currently were, and the others younger are looking at a bigger horizon. What we also want to look at is the equity resale value afterwards. Don, you currently had recently had a evaluation of your business. So what is a business like yours worth in resale value?
I could probably sell it for between 4 and 4.5 million today if I wanted to, if the boys would let me do it.
That's a nice equity build after 11 years in business to have that kind of a resale number in addition to the income that you're making. And then I think as well as to add to that question, there's a lot of businesses out there, a lot of franchises out there that do have a limit to them based on the location, based on the marketing they're providing, based on the territory you got. And to make more, you got to reinvest. In Signworld, nobody has more than one location because you're going to have regional and national customers. So the limit of the business is your desire of what you want to make, not how hard you want to work, but how well you can hire, delegate, and manage systems. Gene, I've got a couple slideshows I'm going to show in the background. We'll continue with questions. These slideshows don't have any audio to them. The first one is going to show you some of the operations, both inside and out, so you can see what facilities look like. The second one is going to go to what is a sign, not only what's made with the original equipment, to what is some of the original outsourced things, which later on you might bring in and do in-house. And the third part of that slideshow is showing you some projects that we would call a sign that you might even not consider as part of our portfolio, but are. The third slideshow goes to some of our wall of fame, showing you some of the larger projects Signworld Owners have done. So we'll watch these while we're continuing questions. So go ahead, Jane.
Very good, thank you. Ken, did you have any other comments to add to the last question?
I made a lot of money. I saved a lot of money, invested it wisely, and I'm happily retired in Hawaii.
Living the good life. Very good. Thank you, Ken. Sheil, you're our next guest. If you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group today. Sheil, are you able to take yourself off of mute?
Sorry about that. Can you hear me now?
We can.
That's a standard Zoom moment. Sheila Malviya, based in warm and sunny Minneapolis. I come from financial services. I'm actually gonna maybe ask a stereotypical Minneapolis question, more on the operational side and maybe more relevant for maybe not Hawaii and other warm places, but I heard a lot of kind of the two-dimensional signage that goes on cars and buildings and whatnot. So in a cold weather climate, does that require like an indoor facility where cars can come in and stuff, or how is that handled? And obviously, similarly putting signage on buildings and whatnot. Is there a different game plan that is needed?
Sure, and realize, Sheil, even though warm weather climates deal with humidity and rain, so I think weather can be an issue wherever you're located. But that said, let's turn it over to our owners to answer that question. Matt, in Michigan, how do you manage your jobs that are exterior or the outside elements?
Yeah, my installers love it because they can drive their trucks on the grass once the ground freezes. But no, for vehicles, for anytime you're applying vinyl, you do need certain I guess atmospheric conditions. So we have an enclosed shop where we can do vehicle graphics inside in the winter. In terms of outdoor work, unless we have an extended period of really cold weather, we do a lot of post and panel signs, so digging holes in the ground, augering and burying posts. And unless we have an extended period of very cold weather, the winter here, even up in the Detroit area, doesn't stop us from working. We installed monument signs all throughout the winter last year. The only thing that I'm aware of, again, being relatively new, that I think is the most sensitive to temperature are what are called like flex face signs. So these are big pieces of material that are stretched across monument or cabinet signs these days. And I think you need about 55-ish degrees to be able to do those, I guess, most effectively. But no, we work year round here, even through the winter, and of course throughout the summer as well. So it really doesn't hold us back.
Right, and other sign companies wouldn't be able to do those jobs either in that geographic area. So everyone's kind of in the same situation. Very good. Thank you, Matt. How about you, David, being up in Canada? You got a lot of snow and cold climates to deal with.
Yeah, we do know a thing or two about cold weather. So there's some things that we really cannot do over the winter, like window graphics is an example. The material calls for a minimum outdoor and surface temperature. Vehicle wraps, we only do them indoor, not only because of the temperature that we need, but also we like our work to be free of dust and wind and things like that get on the way. Some materials I have noticed with some other owners who are, for instance, in California, they feel comfortable using them outdoor and it will be fine. But here, because there's so much contraction and expansion, we do have to work with some different standards. But in terms of getting work done, yeah, we can pretty much throughout the year. Installations, the only thing that really gets in the way is either rain or sleet. Even snow is okay. So yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Very good. Thank you, David. Don, you're in Atlanta. You still got weather and to deal with. Share with us your thoughts.
Well, I think we all have weather somewhere, but yeah, the only thing that affects us, I mean, we do installs in all sorts of weather and things like that. We don't go and do installations in thunderstorms. We don't want our people electrocuted, so we have that going on. Typically shy away from hurricanes. And I would say the only thing, haven't been in the business for a while, in Minneapolis, the only thing that's going to be an issue is like window graphics when the temperature is really cold for a really long time. Everything else you can do electrical signs, you can do dimensional signs, you can do ground signs, you can do other types of graphics. It's just, I've had some installations in Minneapolis with another Signworld owner, and it's just a matter of if it gets too cold, the windows don't allow the vinyl to stick to it, but that's few and far between from that standpoint.
All right. And Matt, going back to you, do you do vehicle wraps inside your shop? Do you have a garage door where you have them inside?
We do. We have a heated garage space where we can bring trucks in to wrap them in the winter.
Good. How about you, David?
Yes, we do them indoors, and when they're too big, actually, we rent space from another Signworld owner.
Very good. Thank you. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, while there's lots and lots of signs that go outside, you have to worry about the weather. 98% of the signs world are indoors. There's lots of those projects you can do on the days when you can't work outside.
Absolutely. Ken, any thoughts from you?
I did not have a garage facility, and I still ran a great business. I still made good money. I just wasn't able to bring vehicles inside. Actually, I didn't do vehicles at all. Zero. Just sent them on down to a friendly competitor. So it's not necessary to run a good business. Our largest owner does not have a garage, does not do vehicles at all. No.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. Okay, let's go to our last guest here today with us. Sam, if you can take yourself off of mute, share where you're from, and go ahead with your question for the group today. Sam, at the bottom left of the Zoom window, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Hello, yes, I apologize. I'm multitasking.
No worries.
Yes, I want to thank you for holding this event. It's been very helpful to me, very, very illuminating, people asking questions that I should have thought of, which then there's a lot of different experience. I'm actually more in an academic experience of the past 20 years or so with and heavy on the IT. And so I wonder if anybody has any advice on a mindset shift from bookwork, heads down coding to manufacturing and customer service in a way that I am not used to.
Yeah, absolutely. We have owners who come from all different backgrounds. Let's start with you, Matt, coming from the business that you did. What kind of mind shift was it? How did you adjust? Any advice that you'd like to give Sam?
Yeah, for me, coming from a sales account management background, I've had, successful startups in my career. So it wasn't a huge shift for me. I just think, the things to focus on, obviously getting started, are sales and customers. That's the fuel that's going to feed your engine. So, prioritizing the right things, being able to, especially as the owner, your time is so precious. And, somebody once told me a very interesting tidbit about, you have to be generating the hourly rate that you're worth. So you really got to box your time. You got to be focused on the tasks that are important, be able to delegate, and be able to build a team that you can trust and rely on to handle some of the day-to-day stuff. And at the end of the day, it's basic business principles. I mean, just again, doing what you say you're going to do, following through, communicating with customers, setting their expectations, and all goes well.
Very good. Thank you, Matt. Don, how about you?
I mean, it's a different mindset. It's really the mindset not of being an IT person, going to a different thing. It's really going from a corporate environment to a small business environment. In a small business environment, you're responsible for the decisions you make, good or bad, right? So it's freeing to a certain extent, and it's frightening to a certain extent, right? So I would say the biggest thing I see is don't overthink things. This is a simple business. You design a sign, you make a sign, you install a sign. It's not rocket science. And the problem some Signworld owners have coming out of corporate America to start off with is they overthink things. You know, they think it's sort of like, it can't be that easy. Well, you know what? Sometimes it is that easy. Just go with it. From that standpoint. And as the owner, you have one job, and that is to be the face of the business to the customers. And you're the brand, you're out there, you're shaking hands. I'm not talking about heavy sales and stuff like that, but you got to be out in the community, you got to be out in networking meetings, and you got to be available to other potential customers. One thing you'll find out that was freeing for me is that there is an ecosystem of small businesses out there that if you've been in corporate America, you have no clue they're out there until you start meeting other small businesses out there. And it's kind of refreshing from an economic standpoint in the country to know that there is this ecosystem of small business that, you know what, do you know who they love doing business with? Other small businesses, and that's who you would be. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And Don, in your business, do you use a lot of systems and technology to help your operations? It's a key part of the business as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we do use system. We use the point of sale system. We use Adobe Illustrator. We use a couple of different things, but it's not heavy IT. But we're up to 23 employees, so we've probably got 17 network computers, and so there's an aspect of that from that standpoint. But we outsource all that. Even though Teresa was in IT previously, we outsource it because our time is better focused on getting customers in the door than trying to do the minutia stuff like that. So.
Yeah, just like Matt said, pay yourself the wage you deserve. Absolutely. All right, very good. How about you, David?
Yeah, well, I don't come from academia or IT. However, as a corporate banker, I remember I used to round up or down to the nearest $1 million, and it wasn't even my money. But reality bites you fast in this business. Our average ticket is $2,500. If everything goes well, you get 20%. So you see, if you make a mistake by $300, pretty much there goes your profit. So I think it's not going to really take you too long from kind of like distance yourself from books and theories and understand that this is a business that is live every minute.
Okay, very good. Jack, your thoughts?
No matter what you came from, you probably did a fair amount of juggling projects. And this is more just juggling projects. The difference is you get to see your results. I think one of the most rewarding things is not only having a customer smiling when they see the sign you made for them, but you're being able to drive down the road or go visit it later. There's not many things in life where we can go and visit our results later. This is one of them.
Very good. Ken, any thoughts from you?
Ken, Jack, one last point to what you just said. For those guys out there that have been in telecom, I worked in telecom for 30 years. I never saw dial tone, but I can certainly see my signs all over the place when I drive around.
Great.
One second, Ken. Talking to Roger Carroll, Signworld owner in Fort Worth last spring, he told me that when he was done with the conversation, he was going to go to the airport, pick up his kids that were coming for spring vacation. It would take him 20 minutes to get to the airport, hour and a half to get home because he had to take them on a tour and show them all the projects they had done since last time they'd been in town. Ken?
Ditto what Don Conklin said. Don't outthink this thing. It's not rocket science. We don't care where you've been or what you've done. We don't care. We have Signworld owners from all walks of life. We care about, what do you want to do next? Does this sound fun to you? Does this sound fun? And if so, join us.
Very good. Thank you, Ken. All right, we've gone through our first round. We don't have enough time to go around completely the second time. So what I'm going to ask you to do in the bottom of your screen, you can click on the raise hand button if you have a second question, and we'll go ahead and open it up to second questions. While we're waiting for a few to raise their hands, I'll just ask one. Why did you decide to join Signworld? You had a lot of options out there. David, let's start with you. What made Signworld the best fit for you?
I really liked, and I still do like, the fact that it's not a franchise. I actually have owned a franchise, and this is different. I get to do whatever I want. I could sell pizza out of the back door if I wanted to. Nobody can stop me. I have changed my brand. I'm taking my company in the direction that I want. So having that freedom is something that I really appreciate.
Very good. Thank you. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, similar reasons. This not being a franchise, being able to, sort of control my own destiny, kind of make my own rules as a business owner was very attractive. The creative aspect of it, every project's different. It's not like you're hitting the number one key every day, all day long. So it's very dynamic from that standpoint. And then having a local impact. I've always been in B2B environments. So being able to work, even though we do work all across the country, having an impact locally with small business owners, working with other small businesses, just seeing the pride in what they're starting and just being a part of that, it just brings me a lot of personal joy.
Great, thank you. Don, how about you?
Well, you can bring dogs.
Other than being able to bring your
dogs to the office, right?
That's right.
So no, you guys have heard this answer before. It's the only one Teresa would say yes to. And that, it sounds joking, but it is true. I looked at a lot of other things. Teresa saw this as the least risky opportunity because you didn't have to generate a need for signs, because everybody needs a sign. Even if you're going out of business, you need a going out of business sign. Other things like travel agency or financial planning or IT support or anything else like that, you had to go out there and really sell it. Signs, basically, if you buy a new building, you need a sign on it. You buy a vehicle, you need graphics on it. You have a golf tournament, you need signs for the golf tournament. Going to a trade show, you need trade show graphics. Signage is an event-driven business, and everybody needs a sign. And that's why we chose this, because Teresa decided that she can go ahead and sign off on this one. So.
Well, I have one more question for you, Don. Knowing you're a numbers guy, have you ever tabulated what the royalties could have been if you went in a franchise business to the level of sales you have today?
Oh, $5.2 million this year. I'm going to probably do 1.23 in profitability. I probably would have had to spend, I think the number was 400,000 in royalties. So that would have taken 1/3 of my after-tax profit at that point in time for nothing. If I need marketing help, I just ask Ken. I mean, that's all.
Very good. Thank you, Don. Jack?
I made a list of 35 things that are important for me, both from the activity level to the economics to life around it. Signworld hit all of the best decision I ever made. So really look at not what the business is, but what your life is like in the business. That is really what it's like, is you're going to live at this for a fair amount of your life.
All right, very good. We know why Ken started it, so we'll go on to some hands that are raised. Dermot,
Wait.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Real quick. Of all the things that I looked at, just like all of you, I looked at all those opportunities and so forth, the franchises. But for me, the sign business was the ability to make the most amount of money in the least amount of time with the fewest number of people. That's what I like about it. That's why I chose the sign business. Go ahead.
Very, very good. Thank you, Ken. All right, Dermot, you had your hand raised first. Let's go ahead and go ahead with the second question for the group today.
Thank you. So my question is, when you guys first open your doors after training, after finding the location, how much business development hours did you have to spend to get the first order or two to get moving?
Okay, so back to the early days, number of hours spent a week out of the office finding customers. Let's start with you, Don.
Okay, so my first customer was my daughter-in-law's aunt. So that wasn't a lot of development at that point in time. My second big job was my sister-in-law's charity. So that didn't take a lot of development. But I would tell you, I probably went to between 5 and 8 networking meetings a week for 3 years. And that would be first breakfast meetings, lunch meetings, or dinner meetings, right? And that was just to establish myself in the marketplace. I did that for 3 years. Probably continued doing a lower level of that for a couple of years. And then after about 6 years, it's all on autopilot. It wouldn't benefit me at all to go out and do that kind of marketing development and stuff like that. Plus, you're your website does a lot of that marketing development for you as well.
Yeah, back 11 years ago, the web wasn't what it is today. So about 5 to 8 hours a week. Is that what I heard you say?
I'd say probably 10 to 15, because remember, as the owner, your job is to market the company. It's not to make signs. You do that at night when you're for therapy, as Ken would say.
Very good. All right, David, let's go to you. How many hours a week when you first started the business did you spend on business development with customers?
No, and I still don't, to be honest. As I said, I gave money to a marketing agency and they made the phone ring, and it has been ringing ever since. We've been busy, but I'm trying to change that because I want us to pick our industries and pick our clients, and that's going to take business development. So I'm trying to little by little break that addiction and then going into business development.
Okay, very good. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, a bit of a unique situation for me because I launched the company in March of 2020, just before a global pandemic when nobody was getting together. How I did do what I could to drum up business from my office. After that whole thing passed, I probably attend 2 to 3 networking events per week, you know, a BNI meeting, some breakfasts, some happy hour dinners, that type of thing. And I would say right now, right around 60% of my time is spent focused on business development, sales. I tend to hold close some of our bigger clients, some of our newer clients that have, you know, big long-term potential. I kind of just tend to focus on those. So it's probably around 60% overall between, you know, being out of the office as well as in the office, having meetings and things like that. Very
good. Thank you. Jack, your thoughts?
We're going to help you reverse engineer the results that you want to have, or from the results you want to have. What activities do I have to take, whether it's networking meetings, working on the internet, meeting with customers, producing quotes, teaching the staff how to generate a lot of that for you. So it's reverse engineered. It's not just wake up in the morning, hope something happens, but actually having a strategic plan to get this all done.
Very good. Ken, any thoughts?
35 years ago, I had no internet. I waited 9 months to get in the yellow pages. By then, I didn't even need it. I did it all through about 3 networking events a week and referral. And I was busy from day one and stayed busy the whole time.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, let's go to our next participant that raised their hand. Sheil, if you can go ahead and take yourself off of mute and go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I mean, I'll continue on my more logistical theme. So, you know, earlier it was kind of mentioned that, right? It's simple design, build and install. I had somehow assumed that medium and larger businesses would have their own designs and they would basically give it to us, and then we would, or, you know, you guys would, you know, create a proof, get that approved, and then create the sign. So I was just curious, the mix between needing an internal design team, which I would think is small business focused, versus getting design from the customers.
Yep, great question. So let's start with you, Matt. Percent of projects you have where the design's already been pretty much created by the customer versus ones you're creating from scratch. Talk a little bit about that process.
Yeah, I would skew the numbers a little bit, I think, from what the norm would be, because my manufactured home communities, they all provide print-ready artwork ready to go, and it's relatively simple. There is a difference between graphic design and designing for signage, especially when you get into outdoor, you know, channel letters, electricals. Not all logos illuminate the same, so there's a benefit to having, I think, some, you know, sign design knowledge as opposed to just graphic design. So we, you know, for the non-manufactured home communities, there's a large percentage. We have an in-house designer. There's a couple Signworld preferred partners that we work with that assist us with some of the more complicated design work. But for those, you know, new customers off the street that just send us their logo, it's typically, you know, a few hours worth of design time until we can land on exactly what everybody's happy with.
Very good, thank you. David, how about you?
I agree with Sheil's point. In our case, our clients, they do have a logo. Most of them have branding guidelines, and that's kind of like the type of client that we prefer. People who are spending somebody else's money, to be honest. So for that reason, when I hire designers, I don't hire for the role of designer. I combine it with project management. So I prefer somebody who's fresh out of school, maybe 2 years, very young, very coachable, not as expensive, because they will not have to do a lot of design. We help them, get up to speed with wraps design, which is kind of the hardest part. As long as you stick to a few very strict rules, you're going to be okay. So in terms of creative design, we do very, very little. Most of what our designers / project managers do is proofs would be maybe 20%, and the rest is really project management.
Very good. Thank you, David. Don, as a larger operation, you have some people probably dedicated to design. Tell us a little bit about how you do that in your business.
Well, I'll differentiate it between design, which is start from scratch and design something, versus layout, which is basically taking existing logos and brand standards and laying it out on a vehicle, a building, or some other thing. So I would say right now, probably about 80% of our designers are doing layout work versus 20% are true create something from scratch type of design. But to Matt's point, you need someone who's got experience in the sign business, because a great graphic designer can make something that looks great that can't be made. We've seen that before.
Absolutely. Very good. Jack, your thoughts?
It really is a blow-up manipulation process than it is a true creation process. But whatever the customer needs, you're going to have the abilities to handle, whether it's done completely in-house or using some of our back-end outsourced resources. And you're going to bill at a proper rate for whatever efforts are done.
Absolutely. Ken, any thoughts from you?
Using Don Conklin's definitions of layout versus pure design, my business was probably 98% layout.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we have one more hand raised. We have 2 minutes left, so let's go ahead and give it a shot. Grant, if you can take yourself off of mute and go ahead with your question for today.
I was just wondering what each person's primary differentiators from their competition is. How do you set yourself apart?
Ooh, it took until the last question for competition to come up. All right, very good. Matt, let's start with you. How do you compare against your competitors? Why did they choose you?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it really is responsiveness. When we get a request for a quote, we always shoot to respond during, within 4 hours of normal business hours. Return quotes within 24 hours. So it's really just responsiveness, communication, being a good business person, I think, is really what differentiates us. There's a lot of sign companies around here, and they just frankly don't handle the customer service end of it very well. And so that's our biggest differentiator for sure.
You mentioned earlier that you won business from a competitor down the street. Was the reason one of those that you just said, or something different?
Totally one of the reasons we just said. Yeah, just being available whenever this particular client needed us. Answered the phone, got back to them in a timely manner, gave them the information they need, all that.
Very good. Thank you. David, how about you?
I have heard some people say no job is too big or no job is too small. For us, some jobs are too big and some are too small. We try to really stick to the persona, the client persona that works for us. In terms of channel letters, because we manufacture our own, if there's a deal that we really want, we can be very aggressive with pricing, and it's going to be hard for people that sub out that product to beat us. Right now we're in with Pizza Hut for Canada. We're trying to sign up another national retailer. We just started recently with doing this. And with wraps, we are a 3M preferred partner, so we try to play that card as much as we can.
Okay, very good. Don, how about you? How do you separate yourself from the competitors?
No one else has Teresa working for them, so that just is a feather in our cap. For those who haven't figured out, Teresa's my wife. So 2 things. First of all, we're all business people trying to run a sign company, and your competitors are all sign people trying to run a business. Running a business is a lot more difficult than running a sign company. So they don't understand customer responsiveness, they don't understand cash flow, they don't understand a lot of the other stuff. So you've got a leg up from that standpoint. Secondly, from our standpoint, we have our differentiator is threefold. It's service, it's speed of service, quality of service, and the people providing the service. None of our competitors can provide all 3. They might be able to provide 2, but they can't provide 3 of those things. So speed of service, quality of service, and people providing the service. And if you ask any one of the 23 people in the organization what sets us apart, every one of them would give you the same answer. Either that or they wouldn't be going on the cruise.
Very good. The stakes are high. They better know that answer. All right, very good. Jack, your thoughts?
You know, with 90% of our competition being independents, the franchises only have 9%. 90% of the independents are mom and pops. And just like any trade, whenever you've needed a contractor, you found that it's hard to get one to come out to give the quote on time. They don't respond and they don't show up for the quote, for the appointment. They don't deliver the quote. Rarely deliver the project on time, on budget. So it's having a business sense, as Don and Matt and David have talked about, delivering the quote on time, delivering the project on time, on budget, having software to be able to produce the quotes, having software to manage the projects. Makes this a totally different experience than our competition.
Absolutely. Ken, any comments from you?
If you've always been on time to show up for class in school, if you've always been on time to show up for your job, if you've always been on time to pick up your kids, you'll be very, very successful in this business.
Keep it
Just
simple.
show up on time. Show up on time.
All right, very good. Well, we are just a few minutes past the hour, so we're going to close up our call for today. So first off, a heartfelt thank you to Matt, David, and Don for taking time out of your busy days to join the session and share your thoughts with our group. We really appreciate each of you, so thank you. And to our participants, we appreciate you joining in today. We look forward to those additional conversations with you in the weeks and ahead as you continue to explore if this is the right fit for you and your life and the next chapter in your journey. So with that, wish everybody a great rest of your day and week. And again, thank you for joining today. Take care, everyone.
Thanks all.